Upper extremity pain. So work-related upper extremity disorders, WRUEDs, are major problems in the modern society, and they represent the primary cause of the absenteeism in North America and Western Europe, so in general in developed countries. The impact of these conditions on workers' sense in terms of pain and disability is also very important. We are just talking about this work absenteeism because of our subject. So these conditions generally are chronic, also include significant loss of quality of life and impact the families of the workers and patients. So generally, this is quite broad term, the umbrella term, used to describe a wide range of the disorders of the muscles, tendons, bursts, and nerves, blood vessels. So generally, a lot of different tissues, a lot of different structures that can be found in our musculoskeletal system and around. And generally, those conditions of those different structures are aggravated by work and may affect the neck, shoulder region, the shoulder itself, elbow, wrist, the hand. Yes, so all of the upper limb and the structures around. And these disorders range from that they are relatively well defined and specific, yes, so some disorders that are easy to describe by the worker or the patient, to such that are quite ill-defined, so they are hard to describe by the patient. And generally, the most common symptoms are pain, paresthesia, stiffness, swelling, redness, or weakness, depending on what we are talking about. What is the etiology? Generally, like in many of such types of diseases, it's multifactorial, so we have a lot of possible etiologies. Physical workplace factors have often been associated, yes, so some physical workplace factors, so some physical variables related to the workplace. There is emerging evidence suggesting that the combination of the exposures to these factors will increase the risk of developing this complex disease. Treatment. Adequate and effective treatment for workers suffering from wrued remains a challenge, although there is evidence that many treatment approaches are effective in reducing the pain and disability. Some of these approaches, however, have been found to be less effective than expected for this population, suggesting that the multimodal approach, including workplace intervention for physical and non-physical factors, may be more efficient. So, like usually, when we are getting some broader view on the issue, we are better off. Yes, we are closer to success. And generally, the epidemiology, so understanding the frequencies of different types of these conditions, is important to understand the nature of the problems, as well as identify those workers that are at the risk of developing them. So first, it is important to mention that there is a very high background prevalence of the upper extremity pain in general population. Some studies report that 1 week prevalence is as high as 50% of general population. What do I mean by that? I mean that generally it is very, very common that from time to time the upper extremity may be painful. And consequently, the wrued is also very prevalent, yes? So some minor difficulties, minor pains of the upper extremity are very frequent, and usually it is not very severe. However, of course, usually it does not mean always. So it's generally difficult to establish the exact prevalence because it's hard to distinguish these, let's say, usual pains from those related to occupation. Generally, the prevalence of this condition is the highest in industries such as agriculture, fishery, forestry, mining, food packing, manufacturing, construction, wholesale, retail, hotels and restaurants. So generally, some industries have far higher risk of this, and there are a lot of different a lot of different occupations and a lot of different injuries that can be related to those occupations. But from the definition, it is related to some occupations, obviously. And generally, the women are more often affected, potentially because the type of work they do. So still gender differences because of personal, biological, psychosocial factors may also be at cause. Yes, so the shoulder is the region most frequently reported as symptomatic, but workers suffering from the wrued, followed by the wrist and hand, the elbow is the least frequent side of symptoms. So in terms of incidence, results from a systemic review found the incidence rates have shown dramatic increase in this condition. Changes in the work environment such as increase in productivity demands increased use of computers, aging of the workforce, worker dissatisfaction, they all may contribute to developing signs and symptoms. And of course, it may lead to work absence.